Kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Almighty God, who in thy wisdom and goodness hast appointed the office of rulers and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of men and women, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us, thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in these islands. That thy blessing descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of these islands and those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge. And this we beg for Jesus Christ's sake. Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Members, the House is now in session. Members, the minutes from the 12th of July have been circulated. Are there any amendments required? There are none. The minutes will be confirmed as printed. Announcements from the messengers from the governor. There are none. Announcements from the speaker. We've been informed this morning that the following members will be absent: MP Kim Swan, MP Christopher Famers, MP Lawrence Scott, and MP Anthony Richardson have all sent their acknowledgments of absence today. Messengers from the Senate. The following forwarding the bill entitled "The National Heroes." Premier, just a message, just a message that the bill has been sent back to us. The national hero has been forwarded to us, rather. The bill was entered in the Senate at first, and now has passed in the Senate and sent to us. The National Heroes Act 2024. Papers and other communications. There's one such paper from the Minister Furbert. Mr. Furbert.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Morning.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to attach and submit for the information of this Honorable House of Assembly the Human Rights Commission's 2023 Annual Report.
Thank you. Petitions. There are none. Statements by ministers and junior ministers. This morning, we have 10 such statements on the order paper. The first is in the name of the Premier. Premier.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and thank you. Mr. Speaker, today I rise to reflect on 7 years of this government serving the people of Bermuda and the work we have done to create a fairer, more equitable island through the work of the Ministry of Finance. From the outset, we promised to make our tax system more fair and equitable, not as a political slogan, but in recognition that our unjust, unfair tax system put the heaviest burden on our poor and our working class Bermudians. At the heart of our vision, we have worked tirelessly to provide relief to the Bermudians who needed it most, reducing their tax burden and shifting it to those who could afford to pay their fair share. Mr. Speaker, when this government presented its first budget statement in 2018, it reflected the needs and desires of the average Bermudian. It reflected the concern of single parents struggling with the cost of daycare, families whose incomes barely cover their monthly expenses, students unsure of their future in Bermuda, and seniors worried about their dwindling savings. It was them who shaped our vision, and it was them to whom our commitment was clear: to present policies that served all Bermudians, not just a privileged few. Mr. Speaker, over the past 7 years, we have delivered tangible relief to Bermudians while investing in critical areas such as education, affordable housing, infrastructure, support for our seniors, economic development, and social programs for our young people. Mr. Speaker, under this PLP government, working people in Bermuda pay significantly less in payroll taxes than they did under the One Bermuda Alliance. In 2016, Bermuda's workers paid the highest payroll tax in history. Why? because the then OBA government shifted the burden of taxes onto the backs of employees rather than employers. We were elected to make our tax system more fair, and that is precisely what we have done. Over the last 7 years, we've reduced payroll taxes for workers in Bermuda to the lowest level in history, with some seeing their payroll taxes fall by 90%. Mr. Speaker, the workers in this country making $48,000 a year paid $2,280 per year in payroll taxes before we were elected. Today, they are paying $240 a year. That is a 90% cut for workers who are challenged to make ends meet. Think about what an extra $2,000 means to a family of 4 or a single parent working more than one job. They get to keep more of what their hard work has earned. Mr. Speaker, the median income in Bermuda is $66,000, and workers earning this amount have seen their payroll taxes fall by 43% since we took office, saving the average family $2,800 a year in taxes. If payroll tax rates had remained the same as the level set by the One Bermuda Alliance, the average worker would have seen an additional $5,000 deducted from their paychecks, worsening the impact of global inflation on Bermuda families struggling to make ends meet. Mr. Speaker, it is a fact that working people in Bermuda are paying less to the government in taxes, carrying less of the unfair tax burden the OBA placed on them, and getting to keep more of the money they earn to spend on the things they need for their families. That is the difference when your ethos is focused on doing the best you can for the working people of Bermuda and not just for the rich and privileged. Mr. Speaker, in 2018, we also closed a loophole that allowed partners of professional services firms and owners of large retailer supply stores to receive dividends free of taxation, while the workers in those businesses paid taxes on their income. Since then, the country has benefited from additional revenues that have enabled this government to invest in additional services for the most vulnerable in our community. The Progressive Labor Party has always been committed to fair taxation, and this government has changed the status quo by delivering fairness to an unfair and unjust tax system, ensuring that working people pay far less and high earners pay their fair share. Mr. Speaker, we are also proud to have reduced payroll taxes for all local businesses and eliminated payroll taxes for self-employed fishermen, farmers, and employees with disabilities. These tax reductions have provided relief to local businesses, enabling them to continue operations, hire more workers, and improve their bottom line. Additionally, we introduced a 1-year tax holiday for new local businesses to further support local business and encourage job creation. For larger local businesses and all international businesses, we introduced the new hire relief, which meant that if companies hired more workers in Bermuda, they would not pay additional employer payroll tax. The result, Mr. Speaker, record tax revenues, strong economic growth, 40-year low unemployment, more Bermudians working in international business than ever, and a fairer, more balanced tax system that supports Bermuda's workers. Mr. Speaker, we have reformed more than payroll tax. As Bermudian homeowners struggled with rising interest rates, this PLP government said that you should not be locked into a high-interest mortgage because you cannot afford to pay the government tax to move your mortgage to a bank offering you a lower interest rate. What did we do? We eliminated the tax on mortgage transfers up to $1 million, which now sees Bermudians getting lower mortgage rates and lower monthly payments due to this government's changes. This change benefits Bermudian homeowners and is true to our ethos of a fairer Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, regarding customs duty, this government eliminated duty on 33 essential goods, school uniforms, aggregate for construction, sporting clubs, youth programs, and nursery equipment. However, one of the most significant actions taken on customs duty was when gasoline prices hit record highs worldwide in 2022, but not in Bermuda. Why, Mr. Speaker? It is because this PLP government took quick action to freeze the price of gasoline so that families, small business, and tourism ambassadors would not have to pay more at the pump. When it came to vehicle licensing costs, we acted there too, Mr. Speaker. No one thought that any government would reduce fees at TCD, but we did, reducing car licensing fees by 10%. Mr. Speaker, in 2017, our seniors felt unheard and unsupported. They had been told that money doesn't grow on trees and made to feel like their contributions to this island were unappreciated. We rejected that approach and pledged to do right by our seniors to ensure their pensions kept up with the rate of inflation. Mr. Speaker, promise made, promise kept. And we said, as we said we would in 2017, this government has increased pensions to keep pace with inflation, ensuring that our seniors can live with dignity. Mr. Speaker, I can share with honorable members and the people of Bermuda that on Tuesday, the Cabinet approved a further 2.4% increase for seniors' pensions in line with the inflation rate. When the House of Assembly returns September, this government will table that increase in pensions to keep our commitment to Bermuda seniors. Finally, Mr. Speaker, this government has successfully designed Bermuda's first corporate income tax in line with the global minimum tax, which will yield significant benefits for Bermuda's future. This work was not easy, but it demonstrates the collaborative approach that has maintained international business confidence in Bermuda, yielding strong economic growth in our primary economic sector. The forthcoming revenues from this tax will enable the government to reduce taxes for workers and businesses even more, support universal health care, and stabilize our pensions for the future. In the end, this means that the government will be able to significantly reduce the cost of living, which all Bermudians should support. Mr. Speaker, some listening may be skeptical and feel that they cannot wait for the revenues from this new tax, as they need more relief now. What I can say to those who are looking for hope is to reflect on this government's record. We have shown time and time again that we are not afraid to make bold choices on public finances that benefit the working people of Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, I give a commitment to this honorable House today that over the next 2 months, this government will examine what further actions it can take due to improving budget performance to alleviate the financial strain affecting families in Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, the past 7 years have been marked by significant changes to taxes in Bermuda that have benefited working people. While we have not been perfect and recognize that there is much more to be done, this government remains unwavering in our core values and objectives set out by those who came before us. The last few years of recovery from a once-in-a-century pandemic have been difficult for us all. But the people of Bermuda should have no doubt that this government will continue to reduce the burden of taxation for working people, reduce taxes to tackle the cost of living, and continue to reform our system of taxation to build that better and fair Bermuda that the voters of this country put their trust in us to deliver. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Premier. Members, the next statement is also in the name of the Premier. Would you like to present your second statement now?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to provide this honorable House and the people of Bermuda an update on the government's financial performance for fiscal year 2023-24, arising from the extensive work done to prepare for the audit of the Consolidated Fund. Mr. Speaker, based on the work to date on the 2023-24 Consolidated Fund financial statements, the 2023-24 budget deficit is now projected to be $33.4 million, $10.1 million below the original estimate of $43.5 million. Revenue is projected to be $1.18 billion, $21.9 million above the original estimate of $1.16 billion. This increase is directly related to payroll tax collections, projected to be $541.7 million, $29.2 million above the original estimate of $512.5 million. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note and remember that this revenue performance was delivered after this government reduced payroll taxes for 86% of the island's workers and all local businesses. This result is a clear demonstration that our policies, which were not supported by the opposition, are benefiting working people and supporting a growing economy. Mr. Speaker, current account expenditures are projected to be $986.5 million, $13.9 million above the original estimate of $972.6 million. It is worth noting that this figure includes some budget items such as $16.3 million subsidy grant to support BHB operations and $4.9 million to support negotiated pay awards for teachers and additional substitute teachers and para educators. These unbudgeted current account expenditures were offset by savings achieved throughout government departments due to firm budget control measures from the Ministry of Finance. Mr. Speaker, interest and guarantee management costs are projected to be $126.1 million, $4.3 million below the original estimate of $130.4 million. Guarantee management fees total $1.3 million in 2023-24. The decrease in interest costs is related to the repayment of $50 million of government debt in December 2023. Mr. Speaker, capital accounts expenditures are projected to be Mr. Speaker. Capital account expenditures are projected to be $98.2 million, $2.2 million above the original estimate of $96 million. These expenditures include a $2.9 million deposit for the purchase of 2 new ferries, $6.1 million for new electric buses, $8.3 million for stabilization works at the Tynes Bay Waste-to-Energy Facility, $4.8 million for a new asphalt plant, and $4.3 million in grant funding to Bermuda Housing Corporation to address the shortage of affordable housing. Mr. Speaker, it should be noted that this is the first time in some years that the government has been able to meet the capital budget target, which is welcome news. All honorable members can agree that Bermuda's infrastructure needs are great, and it is vital that funds budgeted are spent upgrading Bermuda's infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, with these stats and figures, some may wonder what this all means. Put simply, it means that for yet another year, this government has effectively managed the country's budget and has once again exceeded budget targets, meaning that Bermuda's financial position is stronger than forecast just 5 months ago. Mr. Speaker, I understand that these statistics do not fit the negative narrative peddled by the opposition. That is why it is vital we share this information so the public is aware of the facts and not politically biased rhetoric. That said, Mr. Speaker, this government also understands that there is more to be done. We understand that economic growth, GDP statistics, or excellent financial performance do not mean much to families struggling to make ends meet. This government is well aware of the need to do more. And earlier in this statement, I shared that last year's budget deficit will be $10 million less than estimated. Mr. Speaker, since returning to office, we have stayed true to our commitment that as our economy and fiscal condition continue to improve, we will provide further relief to Bermudians. Therefore, later today, I will table the Customs Tariff Amendment Act 2024, which will reduce the rate of fuel duty for fuel used to generate electricity by 60%, from 20 cents a liter to 8 cents a liter. Mr. Speaker, this is a government of action, and when confronted with choices, our response isn't, and I quote, "money doesn't grow on trees," end quote. Instead, our response is, what can we do to help? Mr. Speaker, this bill will be tabled under the Provisional Collection of Revenue Act and has been endorsed by Her Excellency the Governor to take effect from its first reading today. I would like to thank the regulatory authority staff for working with the Ministry of Finance to ensure that this tax reduction can be implemented in time for next month's billing cycle to reduce the impact of the recently announced increases in electricity rates. Finally, Mr. Speaker, this reduction is expected to cost the Treasury approximately $10 million. Again, this government has positioned itself to take this action due to its strong economic performance and successful execution of our economic development strategy. Mr. Speaker, this government is focused on building a Bermuda for the future. I look forward to returning to this honorable House in September to ensure we keep our promise to invest even more in the social programs required to confront the challenges on our island. However, honorable members should note that this government is only able to do more for our people due to our success in managing Bermuda's financial affairs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Premier, for your two statements. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Deputy Premier. Deputy?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Morning.
Good morning, members and the listening public. Mr. Speaker, today I am tabling the bill entitled the Water Resources Amendment Act 2024. That's legislation that will ensure that Bermuda maintains the highest quality of groundwater. Clean water is fundamental to public health and the sustainability of natural ecosystems. Ensuring the purity of this essential resource protects our communities' health and our island's economy and preserves Bermuda's natural beauty for future generations. Monitoring groundwater quality and the status of the freshwater lenses is crucial to managing the island's water resources. To achieve these goals, we propose to implement a suite of amendments to the Water Resources Act 1975. Mr. Speaker, every 5 years, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources issues approximately 3,142 water rights to manage the use of groundwater from wells for various purposes. These include treating groundwater to make potable water, cooling water for buildings, toilet flushing, and irrigation. We also manage about 871 disposable boreholes for uses including discharging treated wastewater, road stormwater runoff, and cooling water returned from buildings. Well diggers are also regulated to ensure compliance with the Act. Recent boat sewage regulations created no discharge zones close to the shore and within various enclosed seas and harbors. Updates to the Act will enable public officers from other departments to enforce these regulations and insist in identifying habitual offenders who discharge sewage within no discharge zones. Mr. Speaker, many environmentally conscious companies already report pollution spills, monitor and clean up soils and waters as part of their operating licenses. This is currently achieved under the Clean Air Act of 1991 and only applies to some typically larger companies that operate control plants. In order to comprehensively address these issues, it is proposed that they should be dealt with under the Water Resources Act. This will ensure that all polluting activities are controlled to protect human health and the environment. It is also proposed that new regulations based on existing cleanup guidelines will be applied to any person who pollutes. The new amendments will make it an offense not to report a pollution event, allow for pollution stop orders, and mandate the need for abatement and remediation of polluted ground and groundwaters. This will significantly enhance the government's ability to protect the environment. The proposed amendments establish pollution limits for the ground to help reduce the pollution of public water resources that are below ground and seawater, create environmental pollution standard under the new regulations, increase enforcement powers under the Water Resources Act 1975 and the Water Resources Prevention of Pollution by Sewage from Boats Regulations 2018, implement appropriate fines to deter behaviors that pollute the environment, set timelines to report pollution events to authorities. Additionally, the government will provide best practice guidance online based on international processes from developed jurisdictions to inform the public how to reduce the risk of pollution spills. Mr. Speaker, due to the importance of these amendments, I invited the public to comment on these proposed legislative changes over a 3-week period that ended on July 10th, 2024. Comments were largely discussed by DENR, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, and consultees via email, including the Bermuda National Trust, Medi Waste Limited, Skyport, Redco, and twice for the Bermuda Environmental Sustainability Task Force, known as BEST. Additionally, DENR held in-person consultation meetings with stakeholders, including BELCO, Air Care, and the Ministry of Public Works. Mr. Speaker, as a result of these consultations, some resulted in subsequent minor amendments to the bill and were completed by the Attorney General's chambers. Offenses were adjusted to discriminate smaller and larger pollution events in the bill. Mr. Speaker, it is proposed that the Water Resources Act will be specifically amended. 1, to extend authority of public officers to enforce existing water resource prevention of pollution by sewage from Boats Regulation 2018 by extending permissions to enter upon any property or land to include any boat or vessel. Permissions already require provision of duly authenticated documentation and are applicable during reasonable hours only. To extend authority of public officers to take measures to ascertain if public water, including seawater, is or may become polluted. This is required to allow public officers to use, for example, inert dye tablets to prove culpability of suspected habitual sewage discharges from vessels within known discharge zones under the regulations. It is noted that vessel means any boat other than a larger vessel to which the Merchant Shipping Prevention of Pollution by Sewage and Garbage from Ships Regulation 2015 applies, to allow public officers powers to take soil samples for analysis, in addition to existing authority to take water and effluent samples, to establish if pollution to the ground is sufficient to cause pollution to groundwater, public water, to allow the minister to require by notice in writing any person responsible for causing pollution to the groundwater or sewage to 1, stop work immediately to prevent further pollution to the environment, such as with use of pollution stop order. 2, to ascertain if the extent of the pollution, and 3, to provide for mitigation remediation methods to address said pollution. With failure to comply with direction given would be considered an offense subject to appeal and should result in seizure of equipment used in contravention of the stop order. To increase penalties for offenses in line with current expectations up to a maximum of $20,000. To include marine outfalls under the definition of works to help manage discharges to the sea. To increase the minister's powers to make regulations that prescribe concentration thresholds for the protection of human and environmental health based on international best practice, to determine which public water, seawater, or any ground is deemed polluted. The concentration thresholds for ground would be varied depending on the proximity to groundwater, pond, coastline, or critical habitat, and whether the ground is used for zones for residential or commercial purposes. To increase the minister's powers to make regulations to include the need for landowners to, in certain cases, to keep records relating to storage of environmental liabilities on the site, fuels, oils, hazardous chemicals, etc., and to allow for procedures to be recommended to protect the environment against spillage, to allow the public officer to obtain a and record information and statistics of hydrological and hydrogeological groundwater conditions and any level of pollution, and in the absence of agreement with compensation payable to the landowner for any damage caused for construction works, to extend authority under the bill to include police officers, including the Royal Bermuda Regiment, Coast Guard unit, and other persons authorized by the minister in writing, to require persons to report to the minister as soon as practicable the discharge of any fuel, oil, wastewater, or hazardous chemicals into public water, seawater, or grounds, to include guidelines to help reduce the risk of any pollution events, including advice on segregation, storage, disposal of fuel, oil, waste, and other chemicals that may be hazardous to health, environment, or property, in addition to advice on spill preparedness and spill abatement, remediation, monitoring, and reporting recommendations. Mr. Speaker, commitment to protecting Bermuda's water quality is unwavering. These proposed amendments and new regulations are vital steps towards a cleaner, healthier environment for all. It is important to preserve our water resources as it protects our natural ecosystems, our communities' health, our island's economy, and preserves Bermuda's natural beauty for the future. I look forward to eventually passing this important piece of legislation next time the Honorable House meets. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy. Members, the next statement is from the AG, but we're going to pass it over at the moment, and we'll do the Minister of National Security statement. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. Mr. Speaker, I rise today for a few minutes of reflection before this Honorable House rises for the summer recess. Honorable members will agree that the events of the past several weeks have taken a toll on our collective morale. Following the recent tragedies in our community, on which I spoke in this Honorable House just last week, it is difficult to speak on the work that the Ministry of National Security does in promoting safety in Bermuda. Having said that, to provide some reassurance, I wish to provide an overview of some of the positive accomplishments over the last few years that the departments under our remit have achieved in promoting safety in Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, honorable members will recall that the Ministry of National Security's Gang Violence Reduction Team, or GVRT, was formed in 2017 with the appointment of Pastor Leroy Bean as the Gang Violence Reduction Coordinator. The GVRT currently has 4 members who provide a range of services aimed at reducing gang violence and antisocial behavior in Bermuda. The GVRT has developed and implemented a coordinated crisis response team which provides immediate crisis support to family members, relatives, or witnesses of violent incidents, and post-incident support. The work of the coordinated crisis response team is crucial in mitigating the impacts of violence in the community and ensures that those affected receive assistance and access to necessary resources. Mr. Speaker, the GVRT's redemption program and youth work placement and mentoring initiative have been operational for 5 years. Over 150 young men between 15 and 30 years old have completed the program, which provides paid employment opportunities, educational support, and skills development to benefit participants in their future careers. The GVRT also delivers programs in schools that focus on outreach, incident management, and personalized support to students. Mr. Speaker, the Bermuda Police Service has an has as its mission making Bermuda safer. To this end, the Bermuda Police Service provides services in alignment with their mission. In 2018, following amendments to the Road Traffic Act 1947, the BPS began conducting roadside sobriety checkpoints that test drivers for alcohol consumption. Due to these checkpoints, several drivers have been arrested while under the influence of alcohol. Countless others made the decision to seek alternative transportation rather than risk being caught at a checkpoint. This has certainly saved countless lives. This year, Mr. Speaker, the government has supported an upgrade to the BPS's CCTV network. The upgrade project will be completely completed by this fall. The CCTV network will provide the BPS with enhanced coverage of the island's roads and public spaces and will be instrumental component of the BPS's investigative resources. This level of CCTV coverage enhances community safety by deterring criminal activities through constant surveillance, making potential offenders think twice before committing crimes. Additionally, when crimes are committed, it aids in the swift identification and apprehension of suspects. The Department of Corrections, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in January 2022, the Department of Corrections welcomed its first female commissioner, Mrs. Kiva Jewel Benjamin, who continues to lead corrections in its mission to empower inmates to be responsible and productive citizens. This government has allocated funding for the improvement of computer labs at the corrections facilities, which have provided inmates with opportunities to gain access to online educational and technological programs. Inmates who are seeking employment as part of their discharge planning can now be given a monitored personal email address, allowing them to communicate with potential employers. Mr. Speaker, this government has approved the transition of the Substance Abuse Recovery Program, the Right Living House, from overseas management to the Department of Corrections. The transition was completed in July 2024 and will provide stability for the residents and more permanent employment opportunities for Bermudians. Overall, the inmates that participate in this program continue to benefit tremendously, both whilst incarcerated and post-release by way of the aftercare component of the program. Mr. Speaker, the Customs Department monitors and controls the cross-border movement of people and goods. Through partnerships with the BPS, the Customs Department works to interdict contraband items and illicit substances into and out of Bermuda. Since 2018, the Customs Department has actioned approximately 2,000 seizures of goods. In the same time period, Customs has intercepted 8 shipments that contain firearm components, ammunition, spent ammunition, or pepper spray. Mr. Speaker, to support the Customs Department, the government allocated funds for the relocation and refurbishment of several of the customs facilities, including the cargo terminal and a yachting facility. A recent upgrade to the department's X-ray equipment has enhanced the department's ability to scan containers and shipments to ensure that dangerous weapons do not enter Bermuda. The public will note that the Customs Automated Processing System, or CAPS, and upgrades to the department's IT infrastructure have made declaring and processing shipments through customs less onerous and time-consuming. Moving on to Bermuda Fire and Rescue Service, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this government was innovative in keeping the airport open when the requirements for airport rescue firefighting services were amended as a result of an audit of Skyport in 2022. The urgent need for airport rescue certified firefighters was initially met through a contract with a Canadian company to provide overseas firefighters. The BFRS recruited and trained 34 firefighters to replace the overseas contingent. This was no easy feat. The recruitment required the government to reallocate funds to cover the salaries of the new firefighters. The new firefighters were then put through intense and expedited training to ensure their readiness for service before the contract with the Canadian company expired. The government is pleased that the Airport Operations Division of the BFRS is now manned by a full complement of Bermudian certified airport rescue firefighters. The Royal Bermuda Regiment. Mr. Speaker, the Royal Bermuda Regiment has undergone significant changes under the administration of this government, ending conscription with the Royal Bermuda Regiment featured in our 2017 party platform and the subsequent throne speech. That promise was delivered in July 2018 with the enactment of the Defense Amendment Act 2018. Soldiers are now enlisted into the regiment on a voluntary basis. Despite initial concern that the regiment would not be able to raise the required number of soldiers through volunteers alone, the regiment continues to flourish. While the number of soldiers enlisted has been reduced in comparison to the numbers obtained with conscription, the quality of recruits has been an immense benefit to the regiment. The regiment's operational effectiveness has not been affected as soldiers are trained to be multi-skilled and the retention rate is longer in comparison to those soldiers enlisted through conscription. Mr. Speaker, in February 2020, the regiment's Coast Guard unit was established. The Coast Guard initially worked with the Marine Police to bolster inshore patrol capabilities during the busy summer boating season. The Coast Guard has since evolved into the sole agency with responsibility for maritime security in Bermuda. The Coast Guard provides 24-hour on-duty capability during the summer boating season and is available year-round to assist with marine distress incidents. The ongoing evolution of the Coast Guard will create expanded opportunities for young Bermudians and promote skills development in the area of marine security. Our Disaster Risk Reduction and Mitigation Team. Mr. Speaker, the Disaster Risk Reduction and Mitigation Team is the team within the Ministry of National Security headquarters that is responsible for national disaster mitigation and response planning. To the uninformed, the team may be thought of as the team that helps after hurricanes. However, under the administration of this government, the team has evolved into much more. Mr. Speaker, the Disaster Risk Reduction and Mitigation Team fosters relationships with other government agencies and external stakeholders to ensure that Bermuda is prepared to respond to a large-scale disaster. The team has facilitated stakeholders' engagement in several areas, including multi-agency preparedness, cruise ship and port disaster planning exercises, food security planning, evacuation planning, search and rescue operations, and the safe transport and storage of chemicals. Our cybersecurity unit. Mr. Speaker, honorable members will recall that since 2019, cybersecurity is within the portfolio of the Ministry of National Security. The Ministry of National Security has developed a comprehensive set of information systems, security policies, and a risk management program in alignment with industry standards. These policies and programs are being implemented across the public service to further protect from potential theft, fraud, and unauthorized access, thereby strengthening the overall security of the government's information systems. Mr. Speaker, in August 2022, the Cabinet approved a cybersecurity unit, inclusive of a national cybersecurity incident response team. The cybersecurity unit underwent a national cyber risk assessment by the UK Home Office in November 2022, which highlighted Bermuda's strengths and weaknesses in the cybersecurity space. Most recently, Mr. Speaker, the ministry established the Cybersecurity Act 2024 to provide for the protection of Bermuda's critical national information infrastructures. Additionally, the Computer Misuse Act 2024 repealed and replaced the 1996 Act in order to align Bermuda with the requirements of the Budapest Convention on Cybercrime. Amendments to additional legislation is forthcoming in furtherance of this aim. The Cybersecurity Unit is evidence of the government's commitment to promoting cybersecurity in Bermuda, particularly of the government and other critical national information infrastructure. The unit is now a legislative body that will continue its work to prevent, prepare for, and respond to cyber incidents in Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, the initiatives, policies, and programs of the Ministry of National Security and its departments are representative of the ministry's aim of keeping Bermuda safe. The government will continue to direct resources towards programs and policies that improve the lives of Bermudians and support them in their personal aim to be productive citizens. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of Works. Minister,
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
good morning.
Mr. Speaker, no thanks. Upon assuming this role, there was one overarching goal that I wish to address during my tenure: improving the quality of life for Bermudians. To meet this goal, I set about doing several things, all aimed at making life easier for the Bermudian public. First was improving critical government infrastructure. In the Ministry of Public Works context, this is described as infrastructure vital for the functioning of a society and its economy. For us, it means roadways, bridges, waste disposal, water treatment, and ports. When this administration came to office in July 2017, the state of our critical infrastructure was poor. This was the result of years of underinvestment by successive governments. Over the past 7 years, we have focused primarily on reinvesting in our critical assets. For example, since 2017, we have installed solar panels on various government buildings, partnered with Balco in their capital works to improve the reliability of the island's electrical grid, invested in the refurbishment of the Tynes Bay waste-to-energy facility, and purchased a new asphalt plant and related equipment. However, these are not the only projects the Ministry of Public Works has undertaken, Mr. Speaker. One initiative in particular is the 2023 commissioning of the East End water and wastewater infrastructure facilities. This $30 million initiative was designed to enhance the lives of our citizens by rejuvenating old and creating new water systems that would properly treat sewage waste and provide potable drinking water to the parish of St. George's. Mr. Speaker, this project, located primarily in Southside St. David's, has seen all new potable water main lines being installed, new sewage collection connectivity to the town of St. George's and its hotels, a new reverse osmosis plant and wastewater treatment facility, the ability to interconnect Southside reservoirs resulting in enhanced storage capacity, plus new monitoring systems for critical equipment. In addition to the direct benefits, it affords the ability for the ministry's water section to establish a new water truckers outlet in Southside. So to remind, we will not have water rationing as was the case for several summers. Mr. Speaker, last and by no means least, the project has a major environmental benefit for Bermuda. For the first time, St. George's will see all sewage redirected to Southside, where it will be treated via the new wastewater treatment facility, and no longer will there be a need to pump it overboard. We will be able to permanently close the Tobacco Bay sewage outfall. This is a huge accomplishment that will contribute significantly to enhancing our marine environment. Mr. Speaker, as I've said before, vision and aspirations only work if you have learned from the past. While critical infrastructure projects like the East End water and wastewater facilities are the vision, we must have the people qualified to sustain them. It is no secret that the government, if not the island as a whole, has a succession challenge. This has been known for some time now. Here at the Ministry of Public Works, this concern is ever more pressing as our work requires specializations that take years to cultivate. For example, Mr. Speaker, natural attrition and the competition for employees in the local and global marketplace has led to a deficit in available power engineers on island that the aforementioned Tynes Bay waste-to-energy facility require. These power engineers ensure safe and reliable operations of the plant. Mr. Speaker, most recently, 4 young Bermudians earned their advanced diploma in power engineering technology from Cambrian College. This is just one example of training opportunities this government has created to cultivate young, talented Bermudians for success in the future as better equipped graduates able to make more informed choices about their career paths. Mr. Speaker, this administration has been working diligently to ensure that all residents have the option to not only have an affordable place to stay, but also the opportunity to earn a piece of the rock. Since 2018, this government has supported the Bermuda Housing Corporation in adding 62 new units, 48 of which are currently being utilized to provide affordably priced housing to Bermudians through the Rent Geared to Income based scheme, which is capped at 35%, 25% rent, and 10% savings of total household income. Mr. Speaker, in 2019, the Bermuda Housing Corporation's Home Start program was launched and remains available to Bermudians who have never owned a home and are looking to obtain first-time home ownership. This program is a partnership between the BHC and Clarion Bank. Since its launch, this program has assisted 34 Bermudian families in their quest to become first-time homeowners. The program is proving incredibly popular, and as I've said before, we are looking to expand the program through other financial institutions. I must say these are not all the projects that are currently being explored. Discussions on a number of others to increase the housing stock are underway and will be reported when finalized. Mr. Speaker, during this period, the now closed T.N. Tatum Middle School has been populated by community-based organizations, including BASE, the Autism Support Charity, PHC, Restoration Ministries, Grace Point Church, a boxing gym, a carpentry shop, a community kitchen, a thrift shop, and various other community-based organizations. Mr. Speaker, during COVID, the government made every vacant plot of arable land available for community gardens. There are now 6 active gardens across the island. Following COVID, beach concessionaires were offered 3-year contracts rather than the normal 1-year renewal so that they could better plan and prepare for the season. This process will continue going forward. Mr. Speaker, it has been 7 years since the electorate entrusted us with managing the island's issues. As I said at the beginning of this statement, improving the quality of life for Bermudians is the primary goal. We still have much work to do, but we are not deterred and shall continue on this path. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of Health. Minister?
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to highlight the strides the Ministry of Health has made building a better and fairer health system. Our commitment to health promotion, prevention, and ensuring access to quality health care has been the cornerstone of our efforts, and I am proud of the results that we have achieved together. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Health always advocates for healthy people in healthy communities because we firmly believe that a healthier Bermuda begins with empowering individuals and communities to embrace wellness as a way of life. Our Grow, Eat, Save initiative, spearheaded by Nutrition Services, exemplifies this philosophy. By teaching sustainable gardening practices and nutritional knowledge, we encourage healthier eating habits and foster a sense of community and self-sufficiency. Through collaborations with various ministries and community partners, this program has grown significantly and is quite successful, touching the lives of hundreds of participants and creating a ripple effect of positive change. Furthermore, our annual Bermuda Parish Garden Competition themed Let's Grow Together is another popular initiative that has proven successful. It celebrates the joy and rewards of gardening while addressing food insecurity and promoting active living. By making healthy food more accessible and affordable, we are nurturing a healthier population from the ground up. Mr. Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic underscored the critical importance of prevention in safeguarding public health. It reminded us that a united front and proactive measures are essential to avoid hospitalization and health crisis. Building upon this lesson, Mr. Speaker, we have made significant investments in preventative health care. Our collaborative development of integrated care pathways, or ICPs, is a testament to our commitment to a patient-centered and proactive approach. These pathways map the entire patient journey, ensuring that prevention and wellness are integrated at every touch point. By identifying potential risk and intervening early, we can prevent diseases from progressing and improve health outcomes overall. To date, Mr. Speaker, we have successfully implemented ICPs for breast cancer, prostate cancer, end of life care, the first 1,000 days of life, chronic kidney disease, and acute adult mental health. Our ambitious plans include expanding these pathways to encompass diabetes, metabolic disease, respiratory illness, post-acute care, and cardiovascular disease. These conditions represent some of the most significant health challenges facing our community today. By broadening our focus to include these critical areas, we aim to improve quality of life while paving the way for a healthier Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, we firmly believe that access to quality health care is a fundamental right for every resident of Bermuda. To this end, we have taken decisive actions to remove financial burdens and ensure that essential treatments and medications are within reach for everyone. By introducing a national drug formulary, we effectively set maximum prices for common medications, reducing costs for consumers and promoting affordability. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the maternity benefit for underinsured and uninsured women ensures that all expectant mothers receive the care and support they need for a healthy pregnancy and delivery, regardless of their insurance status. We have also implemented the health insurance plan and the future care, but we have also improved the health insurance plan and future care by increasing prescription drug benefits, as well as introducing local radiation therapy coverage. These improvements, Mr. Speaker, provide crucial financial protection and peace of mind to our most vulnerable populations. Mr. Speaker, our commitment to prevention extends to specific health challenges that disproportionately affect our community. Recognizing the devastating impact of hypertension, we have adopted the standardized HEARTS protocol, which is a simple yet effective approach to blood pressure management. Our pilot program has demonstrated remarkable success with a significant increase in the number of clients achieving controlled blood pressure. Mr. Speaker, our vision for a healthier Bermuda is one where every resident has access to health care services that they need without facing financial hardship. To achieve this, we have embarked on a comprehensive journey towards universal health coverage. We have established a UHC steering committee comprising of diverse stakeholders, including patients, doctors, policymakers, and insurers to help to guide our efforts. A high-level review and roadmap have been developed and published outlining the steps needed to strengthen our health system and achieve universal health coverage. Mr. Speaker, the release of the Bermuda Health Strategy 2022-2027 is a significant milestone in our UHC journey. This comprehensive plan aims to ensure equitable access to healthcare services for all, regardless of their financial circumstances. To ensure that our healthcare system is responsive to the needs of our community, we have established Bermuda's first clinical senate, chaired by the chief medical officer. This forum provides a platform for clinical professionals to share their frontline perspectives and contribute to system improvements. Mr. Speaker, we have also conducted a joint strategic needs assessment to gain a deeper understanding of our population's health needs and to identify areas of improvement within our healthcare system. Mr. Speaker, in our pursuit of a more efficient and accessible healthcare system, we have launched the National Digital Health Strategy. This strategy outlines a roadmap for leveraging technology to enhance healthcare delivery, making services more convenient and patient-centered. We are actively working on a blueprint for a more digital and tech-friendly healthcare system following the recommendations of the National Digital Health Strategy, and this includes modeling current and future healthcare costs and service usage to anticipate and meet the demands of an aging population. In closing, Mr. Speaker, I am immensely proud of the progress that we have made in building a better and fairer health system. We have laid a strong foundation for a healthier Bermuda, and our achievements in health promotion, prevention, and ensuring access to quality health care are a testament to the dedication and collaboration of countless individuals and organizations. Mr. Speaker, as we look to the future, we will continue to prioritize prevention, expand access to care, and embrace quality health care to ensure that every resident has the opportunity to live a long, healthy, and fulfilling life. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of Youth, Social Development, and Seniors. Minister?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning.
Again, and honorable members and fellow Bermudians. Today I rise with great pride and gratitude to share with you the reflections of the work, the deliverables, and the initiatives that the Ministry of Youth, Social Development, and Seniors has successfully delivered since its inception in October of 2020. Mr. Speaker, as the Minister of Youth, Social Development, and Seniors, I have the honor and privilege of leading a team of dedicated and passionate professionals who work tirelessly to make a positive difference in the lives of thousands of Bermudians every day. We serve with compassion, with integrity, with excellence, and with creativity. We serve because we care. We care about the future of our young people who are the leaders of tomorrow. We care about the dignity and rights of our seniors who are the pillars of our community. We care about the safety and resilience of our families who are the foundation of our society. We care about the inclusion and the accessibility of persons with disabilities who are the champions of our diversity. Mr. Speaker, today I will highlight the achievements of this ministry during the past 4 years, and I invite you and my honorable colleagues to join me on this journey of reflection, the critically important work that this ministry has either birthed, pruned, or watered, and how the people of Bermuda have been served. Mr. Speaker, let me start with the Independent Living Program, of which the ministry was initially tasked to deliver this initiative in November 2020, Speech from the Throne. The ministry was to fill the void that existed when young people aged out of government's care. In March of 2023, this island was stamped with a transformational moment in history as the first independent living program was officially opened in Bermuda at Garrison's View in St. George. This program offers a secure level of comfort and support to our young persons between the ages of 18 and 24 years aging out of the care of the Director of Child and Family Services. It serves as a lifeline and a safety net for our young people. Mr. Speaker, this year, March 2nd, 2024, marked the anniversary of the opening of the Independent Living Program. There was much to celebrate. During the first calendar quarter, the Level Up program, which is a 2023 Through and Speech initiative, was implemented, providing our young people who are 17 and a half years old with the opportunity to gradually adjust to the realities of adult aging as they approach their 18th birthday. Mr. Speaker, what will always stay close to my heart is the feedback expressed by the residents just this year in the Independent Living Program's Year in Review, which included a satisfaction survey of the residents. They expressed gratitude for the program, and when asked how they felt about being residents of Garrison's View, they responded, "It felt like home." Mr. Speaker, no person in our society should be left behind or feel ostracized because they have a disability. For this reason, the ministry successfully delivered on the government's commitment to develop a formal register of persons with disabilities as promised in the 2021 Speech from the Throne. The establishment of the Bermuda Disability Register is another first time ever for Bermuda. The register is a centralized repository that stores accurate and current data on persons with disabilities. It holds key information about the types of disabilities persons are challenged with, which will identify the gaps in the areas of program services and any special equipment needed for persons with disability. At the launch of the Mobile Disability Register app, persons with disabilities who attended felt valued. This was evidenced by the many hugs and smiles extended to the ministry team and representatives from the many organizations who were present. It was a moving experience on that day. Mr. Speaker, the National Disability Register demonstrates that the government remains committed to persons with disabilities and is preparing the country and its people for when the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities is extended to Bermuda, filling this 2023 Speech initiative. Also, this is a significant milestone in Bermuda's history, which will empower persons with disability through accurate data representation, which is crucial for promoting and encouraging active participation in society. This further aligns with the government's 5-year national plan for adults with intellectual disabilities and their families of 2023 to 2028, which launched in March of 2023. Mr. Speaker, this 5-year national plan for adults with intellectual disabilities is a first for Bermuda. Yes, Mr. Speaker, a third first that this government has delivered on. Additionally, this national plan was transposed into an accessible version, a direct reflection of inclusivity so that persons with intellectual disabilities are involved in the implementation of the national plan. This is transformational. Our community members have reported that they have been waiting and are pleased to see all of the conversations and movements in the disability space in Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, the National ID Plan Steering Committee is a cross-ministry and sector governance committee. It oversees the implementation of action items in the National ID Plan to ensure accountable and coordinated activities by working groups that are committed to keep adults with intellectual disabilities and their families at the center. This includes having representation and input from persons with intellectual disabilities and their families at all levels of the implementation and governance process. The steering committee just met last month in June to strategize execution of the priorities outlined in the plan. Mr. Speaker, in partnership with Safe Lives UK in 2023, the government implemented a multi-agency risk assessment conference, MOROC, model in Bermuda, which brings together key agencies and professionals to better support survivors and hold perpetrators accountable. This initiative was a critical step in the ministry's ongoing efforts to enhance response to domestic violence in Bermuda. The MOROC committee meets every 2 weeks to discuss and collaborate. Mr. Speaker, Bermuda is the first country to implement a MOROC outside of the 270 plus existing conferences across England, Wales, Northern Ireland, and Scotland. At the heart of MOROC is the working assumption that no single agency or individual can see the complete picture of a victim's life, but all may have insights crucial to their safety. The committee is also developing a 5-year domestic abuse strategy for Bermuda. The government remains committed to ending domestic violence with the establishment of a Bermuda MOROC to safeguard persons. It will also strengthen our commitment to the UK ratification of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Mr. Speaker, the Bermuda MOROC Committee is soon to recruit a social worker domestic liaison who will be responsible for providing coordinated emotional support, advice, and advocacy for adults and their families who have been impacted by domestic violence. This support will provide referral pathways for victims and those who are harmed. It will also fill a gap in a specialist provision for minoritized groups and demonstrate a focus on intervention. Mr. Speaker, in the 2021 speech from the throne, the government promised that it would strengthen the area of child safeguarding to reduce the harm, abuse, and distress of our children on islands. To date, Mr. Speaker, this ministry has worked diligently to implement various measures for child safeguarding to help keep our children protected and place emphasis on the child's voice. These include the amendments made to the Children's Act of 1998 in 2022 to introduce a Children's In-Care Advisory Council. In 2022, the Counseling and Life Skills and Assessment Unit within the Department of Child and Family Services engaged in specialized assessment and treatment training for child victims and child offenders of sexual abuse. The National Child Safeguarding Committee released a National Child Safeguarding Policy in 2023. A litigation guardian framework was structured during 2022 and 2023. In that, litigation guardians were selected, appointed, and trained to represent the child's voice in the courts and provide their professional analysis of what is needed to guarantee the child's safety and well-being. In April of 2024, the Office of Litigation Guardian became fully functional under the remit of the Ministry of Youth and Social Development and Seniors. And in June of 2024, the ministry launched a 4-week of safer internet training supported by the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, which funded consultants to train public and private school students, social workers, school counselors, educational therapists, principals, teachers, Department of Education staff, government ministries, departments, and representatives from the third sector organizations. Several participants reported that the training was both phenomenal and engaging. They appreciated the support and networking opportunity and were excited about the future opportunities to carry on the mantle, to train other persons and share the understanding of safer internet use. Mr. Speaker, let me shift to the present work of the ministry that we've done and are still implementing to support our seniors. As life expectancy in general increases and quality of life improves, the number of our elderly in Bermuda will continue to grow, impacting the services of aging and disability services. Therefore, in 2022, ADS underwent an organization review by Management Consulting Services. Stemming from this review, the staff of ADS was increased by 2 additional social workers and a policy analyst. This reduced the volume of cases for each of the social workers and positioned ADS to provide a more effective level of case management service to meet the needs of Bermuda's growing senior population. ADS has also been complemented with the intervention of a new structured decision-making tool to better service their clients. Mr. Speaker, the people of Bermuda were promised a national senior strategy that would include a strategy for dementia and a prevention plan for senior abuse, 2 areas of great concern that our seniors face today. The strategy is in draft form and is currently being reviewed by technical officers. We are thankful to our seniors who packed the halls when we held our consultation meetings. The National Senior Strategy now reflects our seniors' comments, feedback, and suggestions, their voices, and is a demonstration of how we can work together collaboratively. At the end of August, the draft National Senior Strategy will be placed on the Bermuda Citizens Forum for greater consultation with the general public. Our vision for strategy is that it reflects an inclusive Bermuda that celebrates and prepares responsibly for aging. The consultation feedback from the public will help make the vision a reality. Mr. Speaker, in October 2023, the ministry funded a 6-month dementia care silence services pilot program. The purpose of this pilot was to provide support and intervention services to persons with dementia and their caregivers while assessing the need and impact of such a program. A total of 50 persons with dementia who were either uninsured or underinsured were provided dementia care services during the pilot along with their carers. Mr. Speaker, a dementia diagnosis can be daunting for the person impacted and their family, so having affordable access to a resource for education, guidance, and support is critical. As a result of the ministry's outcomes obtained during this dementia care pilot, the ministry has extended the pilot for an additional 6 months until November of 2024. The data shows that the need is evident and growing. Feedback from those persons who utilize the service shared this has been an invaluable resource for our family. Moving forward, the ministry is committed to identifying sustainable funding for the provision of dementia care services. Mr. Speaker, in 2022, the ministry, on behalf of the government, entered into a landmark partnership between the United Nations to participate in a joint program building back equal through innovative financing for gender equality and women's empowerment, supported by the United Nations Development Program, the Multi-Country Office in Jamaica, and UN Women Caribbean Office. The program targets women-owned or women-led youth and persons with disabilities, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise in the tourism, agricultural, and creative and cultural industries. UN Women conducted 2 feasibility studies on financing mechanisms for gender equality and on the financial tools and instruments needed by women-owned MSMEs in Bermuda to guide the development of innovative finance products. The outcome of these studies support a BEDC accelerator program for women entrepreneurs that will be implemented by September of 2024. Entrepreneur graduates of this program will have the knowledge and skills to scale up their business for growth and be positioned to pitch their businesses for financial support outside of the traditional banking system. Also, we have offered our businesses and entrepreneurs through partnering with the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation many opportunities for training and building business capacity. Mr. Speaker, in the 2022 speech from the throne, the government promised to further progress the financial assistance reform. Legislative changes were made underscoring the government's commitment to reduce inequality, lend greater support to vulnerable persons, and strengthen social protections for Bermudians. The legislative changes allow clients to retain partial income from work. The changes expanded the eligibility criteria so that families with children have greater access to child daycare allowance and maintenance. And the legislative changes also added new funding schemes so that clients can receive gifts. Clients of financial assistance received increases in allowable expenses for rent, disability allowance, funeral expenses, nursing and rest homes, and benefit increases for electricity, food allowance, eye care exams, podiatry fees, telephone, and water fees. These legislative changes became effective in October of 2023. Mr. Speaker, recently in June of 2024, legislation was passed to support the short-term relief benefits payable to individuals who apply to the Department of Financial Assistance and prove that they are experiencing sudden hardship. For example, if a person has been made redundant from their job or is a victim of domestic violence, that specific individual can apply for the short-term relief benefit and receive for a maximum of 3 months up to $4,500. We recognize that sudden hardship can happen to anyone at any time and for any reason. We also recognize that no one should have to face it alone. This is why the short-term relief benefit was introduced to serve as a lifeline to those who need it the most. This is not a cost. This is an investment in our people, our communities, and our future. This demonstrates the commitment of the government to supporting its people, especially in times of difficulty and distress. Mr. Speaker, I will list the remaining initiatives that the Ministry of Youth, Social Development, and Seniors has embarked on during the past years, which include the appointment of a first-time Gender Affairs Council, the establishment of a Homelessness Advisory Panel, a collaboration with the charity Home to execute the plan to end homelessness in Bermuda, transition of the Mirrors program to the Department of Child and Family Services, the National Mini Youth Conferences for primary, middle, and senior school students in support of goals in the National Youth Policy, and biannual meetings held with the third sector and pastoral services for improved relationship building. Mr. Speaker, this ministry has delivered much in a short period of time. We are committed to continue to improve our services, to enhance our policies, and to expand our programs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of Economy and Labor. Minister.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to advise members of this honorable House of the government's Experience Exchange Program Partnership Agreement recently signed between the government of Bermuda and the government of the United Arab Emirates. Represented by His Excellency Abdullah Luta, Deputy Minister of Cabinet Affairs for Competitiveness and Knowledge Exchange, the signing between our nations occurred at the time of the UN's 2024 High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development in New York, at which the UAE was the host country. Mr. Speaker, the partnership agreement is the first government-to-government memorandum of understanding signed in nearly a decade. This landmark collaboration underscores the government of Bermuda's commitment to fostering excellence in governance and highlights the value driven by Bermuda's economic cooperation efforts. The government of Bermuda and the government of the UAE share a belief in the importance of improving the delivery of government services and ensuring the upskilling of the public sector and our people. And the Government Experience Exchange Program is a UAE Ministry of Cabinet Affairs initiative to create a global model for improving government administration. It lays the foundation for the fulfillment of the UN's Sustainable Development Goal number 17, which speaks to partnership. The program encourages the creation of a global community of policymakers who seek to exchange experiences, build opportunities, and promote development. Mr. Speaker, per the agreement, Bermuda and the UAE will collaborate to exchange knowledge and best practices, with a focus on building institutional capacities and skills for the future. Bermuda's participation in the program highlights the robust and deepening friendship between Bermuda and the UAE. We are grateful for His Excellency Abdullah Nasser Luta for his unwavering support and enthusiasm in fostering this valuable and unique collaboration. Mr. Speaker, the UAE government has developed a leading model for building human capacity and stimulating innovation within the public sector. This has led to better policies, smarter services, and tangible benefits for the 36 partnering nations. Bermuda is nation number 37, and no doubt it will do so for our society and economy. The UAE is committed to sharing its own expertise in these initiatives with other agile nations such as Bermuda, that prioritize future readiness. The areas of cooperation will focus on exchanging knowledge, experiences, and best practices, and on capacity building for public servants and coders through leadership programs and government accelerators. Within the MOU, there is flexibility for other areas of cooperation to be added, as many may be mutually agreed upon between the two parties. The UAE's Government Experience Program includes more than 100 areas of cooperation. Mr. Speaker, more importantly, the Bermuda government intends to focus on capacity building for government leaders through the Executive Leadership Program. This is a learning journey that encompasses modules on future foresight focusing, leading the future, policy, strategic and performance management, digital transformation, and agile leadership, leading an uncertain role. The Ministry of Economy and Labor, through the Economic Development Department, is concentrating on the Million Coders Initiative. This seeks to empower youth with the language of the future and provide them with the right capabilities to be ready for future jobs and new opportunities through accredited training courses in programming. Mr. Speaker, critical to securing Bermuda's admission to the program were Premier Bart's meetings with His Excellency Luto on his visit to Abu Dhabi in December 2023, followed by my meeting in Dubai in February 2024. These interactions have significantly bolstered Bermuda's profile and established a strong foundation for effective economic cooperation. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, Bermuda's participation in the UAE's Government Experience Exchange Program is a remarkable opportunity to leverage the power of knowledge exchange and advance the efficiency and effectiveness of the Bermuda government. The UAE's willingness to share the framework and expertise underpinning its leadership across so many government department indicators is commendable. Bermuda will benefit from this unique relationship of cooperation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, the next statement this morning is in the name of the Minister of Education. Minister?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in education terms, 7 years is 1,400 school days. 2,404 students starting P1 and 1,829 students graduating from S4. In 7 years, we've had cohorts of students who have completed the full cycle of primary school, the full cycle of senior school, and have completed at least an associate's degree at the Bermuda College. So, Mr. Speaker, it's an important time to reflect on the past 7 years since we took office. While we have faced many challenges, it is crucial for everyone in this honorable house and the public to be reminded of some of the key moments that required our attention and highlight how we address those concerns. And let's take this opportunity to recognize and appreciate the collective efforts and achievements. Mr. Speaker, in August 2017, in my second ever cabinet meeting as the Minister of Education, I had to present a cabinet paper seeking approval to hire an abatement firm to cleanse the mold from Delwood Middle School. On June 12, 2017, Delwood was forced to close as all students moved to the Bermuda College for the rest of the school year. The outgoing One Bermuda Alliance government's focus on the then America's Cup event appeared to be the only rationale for their inability to remediate the mold after 2 months of closure. Thankfully, the school opened on September 13th, only 2 days after all other schools. Mr. Speaker, as if that wasn't enough, another significant matter threatened to disrupt our students' learning and had to be dealt with in short order. In June 21, 2017, the Bermuda Union of Teachers held an emergency meeting in which a vote was passed for all teachers to go on work to rule against the then One Bermuda Alliance government. This development was not resolved until 3 months later, on September 2nd, a mere 8 days before the start of the 2017-2018 school term. An agreement was reached to end the work to rule. Again, the America's Cup's focus appears to have taken over precedence of our education system. Mr. Speaker, I speak to remind honorable members and the listening public of the state of affairs in which the incoming PLP government found our public school system, a victim of neglect that saw 4 education ministers in 5 years and unsustainable draconian budget cuts. Budget cuts that led to years of inadequate infrastructure upkeep. Schools regularly closed due to mold infestation or bird mites. Schools without basic necessary services like internet access, Wi-Fi access, modern computer hardware, lack of basic school supplies, and scholarships and awards that had been slashed by 50% from the levels the One Bermuda Alliance inherited in 2012. Mr. Speaker, before we could embark on the meaningful reform our education system needed and begin to phase middle schools out, basic remedial work was needed to stabilize the BPSS and their facilities, repair a strained relationship with union partners, and provide basic 21st century learning tools. Mr. Speaker, during those first years, the need to have a comprehensive evaluation of our school buildings to address safety and health matters. As a result of the lack of funding for regular maintenance and the removal of antiquated technology like dial-up internet and years-old computers, inadequate basic supplies, and other things that had not been addressed by the previous administration took our immediate attention. Mr. Speaker, at the end of the first 100 years in office, the commencement of upgrading all schools to high-speed internet and Wi-Fi was well underway. Safety and health reports had been drafted and funded to address immediate concerns that had been found and allocated. The Strategic Education Plan 2022 was sent back out for further consultation and refined to fully reflect the changes the people of Bermuda wanted to see in public education. Mr. Speaker, the additional consultation insisted upon by this government allowed Bermuda's voices to be heard, and it has been used to underpin the education reform we see today and will continue as we move into the future. Mr. Speaker, you've heard me say before, and I'll continue to say, as long as I have the privilege of serving in this post, our goal is to provide a world-class public education system, a public education system that helps our children follow their passions and interests, build on their talents and capabilities, and achieve their career and life aspirations, a public education system we all can be proud of. Mr. Speaker, let me take you and the listening public of a journey of just a few of the changes that can be seen and felt already from entering the public school system in the early years through higher education at Bermuda College. This is the direct result of this government's laser-like focus in providing the necessary funding and resources to build a system that caters to all of our students. Mr. Speaker, early childhood education and services are key to developing well-rounded and successful students. Over the last 7 years, gaps that hindered progress in early years have been identified and addressed. One significant achievement is the introduction of the Bright Start program. Starting preschoolers at 3 and having the preschoolers for another year strengthens relationships between preschools and families. This gives the preschoolers time to learn and be supported by developmentally appropriate practices and interventions. Additionally, the expansion of services at the preschool level was done to include an ASD program, ensuring tailored support for children with autism spectrum disorder and fostering inclusivity. Mr. Speaker, to modernize our preschools, outdated dial-up internet was replaced with high-speed internet, and tablet devices were provided to enhance digital learning. The recent refurbishment of Lyceum Preschool is a model for future educational reform, setting a high standard for other institutions to follow. These initiatives collectively demonstrate our commitment to improving early childhood education and providing robust support for our youngest learners and their families. Parents have praised the Bright Start program, which has supported young students significantly and relieved parents' burden of paying for early childcare. The ASD program has ensured that all children receive the necessary assistance they need at an earlier age. The technology upgrades have brought preschools up to speed with 21st century learning, significantly improving educational experiences. Mr. Speaker, significant progress has been made at the primary and middle school levels with the phasing out of middle schools and introduction of parish primary school concept. Mr. Speaker, recognizing the need for students to access high-quality 21st century learning opportunities, installing high-speed internet and modern devices became a priority. Ironically, the Wi-Fi equipment that was purchased for America's Cup that had no identified use after the event, which previously resulted in budget cuts to education, was repurposed to equip our schools with modern Wi-Fi resources. This strategic reallocation of resources, the provision of updated devices, and the implementation of initiatives like Schoology proved invaluable, particularly when COVID-19 pandemic struck. Mr. Speaker, when the pandemic caught school systems all worldwide off guard, Bermuda was able to leverage the systems already in place to establish a remote learning regime more quickly than anticipated. Although the learning curve was steep, as these resources had only just being implemented, the foresight to prioritize technological advancements in the early years of the PLP government allowed us to avoid the pitfalls of outdated dial-up internet in our schools. This proactive approach assured that our students continue to receive a quality education despite the unprecedented challenges of the pandemic. Mr. Speaker, education reform priorities provided our students and educators with updated learning tools. As a result of the pandemic and lessons learned, every child entering the BPSS in P1 now receives a Chromebook that remains with them throughout their primary school years. The implementation of PowerSchool, Schoology, and the eventual introduction of Google Classroom has given students, educators, and parents unprecedented access to school staff and children's schoolwork, along with consistent monitoring of student progress. As a BPSS parent, I have set up my PowerSchool account to send weekly updates, allowing me to review and promptly address any issues. This system provides parents with real-time reporting of their child's progress, ensuring they stay informed and engaged in their children's education. Mr. Speaker, the progress of transforming our primary schools into parish primary schools is underway, with Purvis Primary and Francis Patton Primary leading the way. Despite the challenges of being the first to undergo this change, feedback from educators, parents, and more importantly, students has generally been positive. While there are still areas to improve, the progress is evident. Each school has benefited from multi-million-dollar upgrades that are completed or currently underway. Mr. Speaker, as they enter their second year of transformation, innovative learning experiences such as the dual language and co-laboratory programs are thriving. Initiatives like co-teaching, learning beyond walls, and the integrated learning model have shown data-driven successes. Notably, our year one student reading benchmarks have outperformed year one students of the last 3 years. And there has been observed improvements in students' confidence and communication and presentation skills. Mr. Speaker, the transformation of Elliott Primary and Harrington Sound Primary, scheduled to begin phasing in as parish primary schools in September 2025, is progressing steadily. We understand that fully transforming our system will take time to happen. However, it requires stability and a willingness to stay the course despite inevitable headwinds. This dedication ensures that our educational system will continue to evolve and improve for the benefit of our students. Mr. Speaker, the development of our signature senior schools is significant. We are now entering the third year of signature learning programs, which provide our children and young people with a less narrow focus on knowledge-based learning outcomes and better accommodate the development of 21st century skills and dispositions. Signature learning programs provide the platform for more real-world learning experiences and inquiry-based learning and teaching approaches. Through the diversification of the curriculum boards, learners can now access meaningful and relevant and internationally recognized curricula. While this transformation is not complete, the voices of our community to provide students with genuine pathways beyond school, be it trades, international business, or hospitality and tourism, is well underway. This is a vast improvement to the one-size-fits-all system we inherited when taking office. Mr. Speaker, it's not just academics either. Our senior schools have begun implementing the Character Strong program through advisory to create a school environment supporting all students' healthy social and academic development, building trusting relationships with and among students and advisors. This has encouraged growth, self-reflection, and problem-solving among students. As we consider the very recent tragic events, this government commits to continuing the expansion of this space by including our parish primary schools, as we firmly believe our schools should be seen as places where healing could and should happen. Mr. Speaker, the transition from senior school to higher education is a significant one. Over and over, we read news stories and research studies demonstrating, in particular, Black students face considerable barriers when attending and completing college and gaining a solid economic foothold, with a significant barrier identified as being the cost of higher education. In 2017, this PLP government pledged to increase funding for scholarships to provide public school students with more opportunities for higher education and enhance accessibility to Bermuda College by offering financial support to students in need. Since then, this government has returned the funding for tertiary education to the levels it was when the PLP was voted out of office in 2012. Mr. Speaker, between 2012 and 2017, the One Bermuda Alliance cut this crucial funding from just over $2 million to around $1 million. Since 2017, money allocated to scholarships and awards has steadily increased to its now level of over $2 million. This increased funding has enabled more students to benefit from financial support for tertiary education, including the annual grant of $300,000 to the Bermuda College for financial aid and creating the College Promise Program. The College Promise Program allows graduates from the Berkeley Institute and Cedar Bridge Academy with a 3.0 GPA or higher to attend the Bermuda College tuition free. Mr. Speaker, I recall a conversation with a student who intended to attend St. Francis Xavier University through the College Promise Program. They explained how this program, along with the Bermuda College's articulation agreement with St. Francis Xavier University, would allow them to transfer Bermuda College credits and enter the third year of a bachelor's degree program. By choosing this pathway, the student and their family have potentially saved approximately $68,000 in tuition and fees compared to the cost of studying abroad directly from high school. This highlights how the College Promise Program is not only helping parents save money, but also opening educational doors for all students. Mr. Speaker, the PLP government firmly believes in prioritizing our students' futures, unlike the previous government. The previous government's decision to cut funding for scholarships and awards by half was unconscionable, showing a lack of foresight and moral responsibility. I shudder to think how many students had their education dreams deferred or canceled due to their short-sighted and morally bankrupt decision to divert funds from these essential student support initiatives. While the government elected by the people should be saying good luck in school to all students, they unfortunately were saying better luck next time. Mr. Speaker, I finally want to pay tribute to the Education Authority Working Group members. This dedicated group believes in the transformation needed within public education and has demonstrated its commitment through significant personal contributions. They have diligently researched, conducted numerous meetings for almost 3 years, and compiled a comprehensive plan for an education authority without compensation or public recognition. Their selfless efforts have laid the groundwork for a transformative change to our education system. I look forward to this House's return in September, where I will table the Education Authority legislation marking the next major phase in our education reform. This legislation will be crucial in ensuring that our education system continues to evolve and meet the needs of all Bermudians. Mr. Speaker, while today highlights some of the many initiatives over the last 7 years, this is by no means a complete list. The tireless efforts of the dedicated members of the Education Reform Unit, the Department of Education, Libraries and Archives, and the Bermuda College staff are continuously focused on improving education delivery to our students and creating pathways for all Bermudians to thrive. Mr. Speaker, we celebrate these 7 years of progress, but we must acknowledge the hard work and dedication that has brought us to this point. However, now is not the time for complacency. The journey ahead requires an unwavering commitment to transforming Bermuda's public education system. Bermuda's children deserve nothing less than our best efforts to provide them with the highest quality education. Mr. Speaker, let us continue to strive for excellence, ensuring that our education system not only meets but exceeds the needs of our students. We must prepare them for a bright and prosperous future, equipping them with the skills and knowledge to succeed in an ever-changing world. Our goal is to foster an environment where every student has the opportunity to reach their full potential and contribute positively to our society. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Members, before we move on, let me just clarify that the statement that was down on the order paper this morning for the Madam AG, she was prepared to deliver it, but due to a medical situation, she wasn't able to be here this morning. So we're just wanted to acknowledge that. We move on. The next item on the order paper, reports of committees. There are none. Then we move on to the question period. This morning we have written questions for ministers before we go on to the questions from statements this morning. And we'll start with the questions as in the order that they are on the order paper for the written questions. And we'll begin now or start the clock that we will. Okay. The first question this morning is to Minister of Economy and Labor, Minister Hayward, and the question is from the opposition leader. Opposition leader, would you like to put your question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
And good morning to honorable colleagues and the listening audience. My question to the honorable minister is that members of the public have told the opposition that they have passport renewals that have taken upwards of 6 months to process. Will the honorable minister please inform this honorable house as to how many passport applications and renewals in 2024 have exceeded the 11-week turnaround time as set out by the minister during the House meeting of Monday, 6 March 2023?
Minister.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning.
Mr. Speaker, I am prepared to provide a fulsome response to that question, but I do query why the statements I made on October 30th, 2023, April 6, 2024, and May of 2024, which are all public statements, were omitted from the question. I have been extremely transparent in terms of the turnaround times when it comes to processing of passports. To the extent that I've stood on this floor of the floor of this house and apologized to people of Bermuda for the turnaround times, and have reported progress where progress has been made, and I have been extremely transparent where there were shortfalls in processing. So I do want to get clarity as to why the honorable opposition leader will harp on a 6th of March 2023 statement when there have been previous statements in this house post that date, which indicated that we were having difficulties with processing of passports.
Minister, for clarification, your basic response is saying that the answer is already in the public domain and the answer has already been provided.
But he asked for specific numbers, which I'm prepared to provide, but
Because if for clarification, if the answer is already in the public domain, you can refer to it being in the public domain. If you're saying that the answer's on, then the question is put to get the answer.
Yeah.
But if it's already in public domain, we can stand on it, the fact that it's in the public domain already.
so to specifically answer the part of the question where he asked for data, the data indicates that 3,019 passport applications were received from the period of from January 1st, 2024 to July 12th of 2024. And the majority of those passports would have exceeded the 11-week turnaround time that was stated in the statement of the 6th of March, 2023. However, that is a false barometer, as I've given and indicated on numerous occasions that that time period had not been met.
Member, supplementary?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
First sub?
Thank you. Would the honorable minister please speak to some of the contributing factors that are leading to these late passport applications and renewals?
Mr. Speaker, that information is in public domain.
Supplemental, please.
Second sub?
Thank you. Would the honorable minister please speak to the changes that he's made given this clearly late turnaround time and broken process?
That question is asked by making an assumption that turnaround times are consistently late. We have revised turnaround times, and the 11 weeks that they continuously refer to is not the accurate turnaround time. We've revised the turnaround time, so the member can't say that we have late turnaround times. Turnaround times actually fluctuate, and so you can get persons who receive their passport within a 9 week period. You have persons that receive their passports outside that period. It all depends on volume and human resources at the time in which passports are actually submitted. But for the most part, the department has been doing extremely well at processing passports between 12 to 15 weeks, as indicated in a previous statement I've made in this house.
So you used your 2 supplements on your first question. Would you like to do your second question?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, members of the public have told the opposition that the customer service desk in the Department of Immigration is not regularly staffed, and they have been told they can only ask questions via email. Will the Honorable Minister please inform this Honorable House as to whether this is the formal government policy?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, we come to the House of Parliament to be scrutinized based off of facts. The question says that a member of the public told him that they received a response from somebody anonymous in the Department of Immigration and wants the minister to rise on the floor of the House of Assembly and indicate whether or not that was a true sequence of events. Mr. Speaker, my point is, number one, that the standing order specifically speaks to a minister having to rise and answer questions pertaining to queries from members of the public in this House of Assembly. While I'm being transparent, I have no problem with answering the questions, but I would say that that is completely incorrect. There are 4 windows within the Department of Immigration. The first window, all application inquiries and intake of passport applications. Windows 2 and 3 is intake of passport applications, including the vetting of applications and advising applicants what additional information is required. And window 4 is the collection of work permits and other related work permits. If an individual comes to that department and they have a query, if the person at the counter is unable to answer that query, they are often instructed to have a direct conversation with senior management, and senior management comes from the back of the department to assist persons with their queries. Windows are open within the Department of Immigration, and the member need not ask that question on the floor of the House. He simply needs to go up there and visit.
Thank you. Supplementary? Supplementary?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I thank the Honorable Minister for explaining the staffing for the customer service desk. Would he just be able to clarify? I think he said desk number 1 was the customer service desk. Is that right? Did I hear that?
4 vendors are all customer service vendors.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to move on to the third question.
Third question, yes.
Thank you. Multiple members, plural, of the public have told the opposition that they cannot get an answer to questions or updates in relation to their passport application and renewals. Will the Honorable Minister please inform this Honorable House as to what actions members of the public should take in this circumstance?
Minister?
Again, multiple members of the public. The standing orders specifically state inquiring rather statements in the press or of private individuals or unofficial bodies are accurate. Mr. Speaker,
That's that. I'm happy
here's
I'm happy to
what I'll
reword.
generally
Still on the
here's
speak.
what I'll generally state.
Still on the speak.
I spoke about the volume of applications from January to now, over 3,000 applications being processed. The department does an excellent job as it pertains to trying to field all the calls and queries that persons make when they ask questions regarding their passports. Most times, the question that is asked when a person submits the passport they're inquiring when the date of the passport will return. Most times, the Department of Immigration does not have that information because once the passports are sent abroad, they have no control over when they will be returned back to Ireland. Any questions as it pertains to complete or incomplete information as it pertains to a passport, the department contacts individuals to inform them that they need to provide that additional information. And so it is incorrect to say that all 3,000 persons who have submitted passports who may have queries can't get answers to the step that their passport is in the process.
Supplementary?
Yes, thank you. Or maybe restating the question. My question is, what actions are members of the public supposed to take if they have a hard time reaching persons in the Department of Immigrations?
The
Email or-
Minister on his feet.
the department, they can either call in to the Department of Immigration, they can email the Department of Immigration, they can try to contact the they can
Minister on his
try
feet. Let the minister provide your response.
to contact the Chief Immigration Officer directly. I'll advise them to do so for very important queries, or the Assistant Chief Immigration Officer. They can write directly to the Permanent Secretary responsible for the Ministry of Economy and Labor. They can write directly to the Minister responsible for Economy and Labor. They can write to any of the MPs who often field these queries to my desk, and I provide timely responses. And I'm sure that opposition members can attest to that, because when they have constituents who have questions as it pertains to queries and they reach out, I'm often make myself available to assist them.
Thank you. Supplementary? Second sub?
None. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
None? Okay, thank you. Would you like to move? That was first question. Your second question. Second question is also to the Minister of Labor and Economy. Would you like to put your second question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Second reading question.
Second request, thank you. The Honorable Minister has stated that he attends the weekly Department of Immigration Senior Management meeting. Will the Honorable Minister please inform this Honorable House whether work permits are approved at the weekly meeting of Senior Management?
Mr. Speaker, most times those meetings are designed for me to hear appeals. And as a result of that, yes, some appeals have to do with permits, and those permits are considered in that meeting.
Supplementary?
Yes, would the Honorable Minister be able to clarify what role the appeals or the Immigration Appeals Board plays as it relates to senior management meetings? Does the senior management meeting escalate matters to the board, or vice versa? How does it work?
Yes, sir.
The Immigration Appeals Tribunal is a board that handles other parts of the legislation and not work permits. Work permits come out on the sole responsibility of the minister, and the refusals to work permits cannot be challenged by the Immigration Appeals Tribunal. And so there is no interaction between the Immigration Appeals Tribunal and the Board of Immigration, nor the senior management of immigration as it pertains to work permits. And I've made that abundantly clear before on the floor of this House to the same member.
Second sub?
None. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Second question, please.
Yep.
In a May 2024 press conference, the Honorable Minister said Bermudian unemployment was at its lowest levels in more than 40 years. In that same month, the minister then extended a moratorium on closed and restricted categories. Given that and the minister's explanation in the House on 18 June 2021 of the methodology used by government to identify additional categories of closed and restricted work permits, will the Honorable Minister please inform this Honorable House as to why he continued the restrictions?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Speaker, I continue the restrictions of closed and restricted job categories to protect jobs for Bermudians.
Supplementary?
Yes, thank you. So my understanding from the minister's statement on the lowest levels of unemployment in 40 years indicated that there were a number of that the jobs were protected and there were a number of vacancies in the industry that needed to be filled that couldn't be filled. So my question is, the logic is therefore that he's always going to keep it closed or restricted. What's the criteria he's going to use to release these?
I mean, the minister will always keep it closed. You're asking, will the minister always keep it closed? So I'm
Yes,
trying to find the question.
Sure. What is the criteria? Thank you. I'm referring to the methodology he referred to before. What is the criteria that the minister will use to amend closed and restricted categories?
The Department of Statistics conducts an employment survey. As a result of that employment survey, they put out an employment brief. The employment brief clearly indicates Bermudians and non-Bermudians in each job category. There are job categories that are 90% Bermudian. Those job categories indicates that Bermudians are number one, willing, able, and capable of doing that particular job. In those particular job categories, I'm fairly confident that those job categories should remain closed because there will be no need to provide foreign labor in those particular job categories based off the willingness of Bermudians to do those particular jobs. That's the baseline assessment that has been used. We have had some historically closed job categories in Bermuda and job categories that has remained closed. Mr. Speaker, this is a 2015 work permit policy. The 2015 work permit policy had closed and restricted job categories. This was an OBA policy. It is not uncommon for any government to have closed and restricted job categories to protect Bermudians. And so I'm not clear on the line of questioning, but here's what I'll say. Bermudians are a priority for this government. The employment of Bermudians is a priority for this government, and we will continue to put policies in place that ensure that Bermudians have opportunities for employment. I want to raise another thing. He made a correlation between the lowest unemployment rate in 40 years and me keeping job categories closed. What if, Mr. Speaker, the closure of job categories has led to the lowest unemployment rate in 40 years?
Supplementary? Second sub for that question? Or? Second sub?
Yes, please. Would the honorable minister be able to provide any data connecting government policies to this lowest level in 40 years?
If I'm clear, the opposition wants me to be explained whether any government policies have led to an increased level of employment in Bermuda. And so that is a very broad question, but I'll start with number one, providing individuals with opportunities to attend Bermuda College and get educated would better position Bermudians to take advantage of job opportunities that are taking place in our economy. Increasing scholarships also leads to building the capabilities of Bermuda so that they can better position for job opportunities. The Department of Workforce Development, when they run summer internships, when they run graduate training programs, when they put on work readiness programs, all aid in connecting people with jobs. The government's youth employment strategy is specifically designed to connect young people with job opportunities. The government's national reemployment strategy was specifically designed to connect Bermudians with job opportunities. MOUs that we put in place with employers are specifically designed to ensure that Bermudians get fair opportunities to jobs. When we sign investment orders with hotels, they are supposed to put management programs in place. those management programs are overseen and monitored by the Department of Workforce Development. And there's a number of hotel establishments who have been assessed, and their plans have been certified by the department. Whether we run training courses within the Department of Workforce Development, whether we partner with Bermuda College's PACE program, these are all designed to ensure that Bermudians have opportunities within the workplace. Whether it's the government creating a robust ecosystem which allows businesses to thrive, which allows then businesses to hire more Bermudians. This is all things that are done to support Bermudians entering our world of work. And so there has been numerous things that I can say that the government has done that directly benefits Bermudians in terms of, number one, preparing them for the world of work, and number two, maintaining employment when they get into the world of work.
Thank you. Is there a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As it relates to the fast track work permit application.
The written question.
Oh, sorry.
The
Thank
written
you.
question.
The,
Then you
the
can
opposition has been informed that fast track work permit applications are not in effect. Will the Honorable Minister please clarify for this Honorable House the status of the fast track work permit process?
Mr. Speaker, what is a fast track work permit? The honorable opposition leader has just invented a term. I don't know, even in the OBA's 2015 policy, there is no such permit as a fast track work permit. If the member is asking whether or not we expedite work permits, that's a separate question, but maybe he can clarify his question.
Do you have a supplementary that offers more insight to an answer?
Well, I have a clarification. I'm sure it's not the largest corollary in the world to go from fast track to expedite. If you can answer the question relating to, is there an government has been informed that expedited work permit applications are not in effect? Will the Honorable Minister please clarify for this Honorable House the status of expedited work permit processes?
The process of expediting is a verb. An expedited work permit is a noun. There is no such thing that exists. But here's what I would say. For specific job categories such as CEOs, chief officers, and actuaries, those processes are expedited to ensure a speedier turnaround for those. But I would be clear that when we are referring to terminology, there is no such thing as an expedited work permit. There is no such thing as a fast track work permit.
Second sub?
No, thank you. I very much appreciate the Minister's answers today.
Thank you. Okay, the next written question is also for the same minister, Minister Hayward. Your next written question is from MP Scott Pearman.
Good
MP,
morning.
would you like to put your question?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, and good morning to the minister, and good morning to the listening public. The first question is regarding increased closed categories and extended time for categories being closed to provide job opportunities. Will the Honorable Minister please inform this Honorable House as to how many unemployed Bermudians were identified as having the skill set or having interest in being trained in the areas of the closed categories prior to the closing or extending of the period of closing such categories? Thank you.
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I humbly request that the honorable member declare his interest. The honorable member operates a firm in which they benefit from the production of work permits. They actually hires MPs and colleagues to participate in this work. And so if we open up work permit categories, he actually has a company that benefits from this particular process. So it would be fair if the honorable member declared his interest.
Mr. Speaker, I'll be guided by you, but I have to say that that's completely ridiculous.
I'm trying to find the right position here in that we are required to declare we have interest. And some persons have their forms filled out very thoroughly of where their interests lie, and some may not. But I think the fact that your position is known, we are clear on that piece of your declared your interest as far as the process is concerned for it to be in writing. On the registered interest, it's there, it's publicly known. I'm trying to guide us on this question that every single time something comes to the floor, does every member have to get up and state, I've got an interest when it's guided? So I'm trying to provide a pathway where we don't get caught up going back and forth on who's personally interested this way and that way, because the registration is supposed to be current on that regard. In this incident, I'm going to ask, because this is becoming up pretty often now, I'm going to ask that you do declare it for this instance, and the minister then respond. But I'm going to provide clarity at a later date on how we handle this every time it comes up. We shouldn't get caught up.
Thank you. No, I'm happy.
No, I'm not finished. I don't want us to get caught up on what it looks like, what personal every back and forth in individuals because of that. Once the member's registered, it's official, it's there. And it's registered in the public domain as well because it's on our website. But for this instance, acknowledge it, and Minister will then answer the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll comply with your direction. Obviously, I am a lawyer at the law firm Conyers, Dillon, Pearman. Further, there is a declaration of interest from me on the parliamentary website, which I note is up to date.
I acknowledge that.
Grateful.
I acknowledge that.
And I'd be grateful for the minister to answer the question about unemployed Bermudians.
No. That's what I stated. You clear it that, and now the minister will respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that guidance. And so the Bermuda government doesn't have a list of all of the interest of unemployed Bermudians. But what we do know is when we do run programs in alignment with closed categories, we do have high levels of applications. And I'll just give a few examples. Administrative assistance is a closed category. I see no reason why the Bermuda government should open up the job category of administrative assistance. But when the Department of Workforce Development ran the Professional Administrative Certification of Excellence program, we had over 100 persons who actually showed interest. Some unemployed, some already in the workforce, but it just showed the level of persons interested in obtaining the credential to enhance in that particular career profession. When we had the Bacardi Shake Your Future program, that was a bartender program. The bartender category is a closed category, and we had over 200 persons interested in that program. That indicates to me that there is a willingness for Bermudians to enter that particular occupational category. And as a result of that, we should focus our efforts on the development of Bermudians rather than the opening up of that closed job category.
Supplementary?
Yes, thank you. Supplementary. I understood the answer to be that the Bermuda government does not have a list. So in response to the initial question, how many unemployed Bermudians were identified, is the answer none?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I made my answer was abundantly clear that no, we do not have the interest of every unemployed individual registered in closed job categories. We simply don't have that correlation. But I did indicate where we do run programs in the areas of closed job categories, there's a great appetite from members of this particular public to be trained in those particular areas. I really wonder what the opposition would do different as it pertains to closed and restricted job categories. And if they would want the minister to open up job categories, then that's what they should actually say. And then they should actually say which job categories that they believe the minister should open. And we can have dialogue around that.
Second sub?
Second question.
Second question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the honorable minister please inform this honorable House as to how many unemployed Bermudians have been hired in which categories since the categories have been closed in his initiative? Thank you.
Minister.
As stated earlier, the Department of Statistics runs an employment survey on an annual basis. That employment survey will gather data on Bermudians in every occupational category. That is a full census of our employment landscape. And as a result of that, we will be better able to gauge the impacts of the actual policies. What we do have now is data that takes place through the labor force survey, which actually collects employment and unemployment rates. And what we do know is that our unemployment rate is actually declining. And so I see no valid reason as to why the government should change its policy objectives if the desired result in the economy is lower unemployment and we are achieving that.
Supplementary.
No. Third question, Mr. Speaker. Thank
Okay.
you. Will the honorable minister please provide this honorable House with the results of the impact study on local businesses relating to the implementation or extension of closed category under his policy?
Minister.
Again, Mr. Speaker, the opposition has created a term of an impact study. I have never indicated that the Department of Immigration or the Ministry of Economy and Labor does an impact study. But here's what I'll tell you. Since I've had closed and restricted job categories, I've had 2 requests from industry to open up closed or restricted job categories. One was in the area of bartenders. I opened up bartenders for a period of time. That was met with uneasiness from the Bermudian employees in industry, and then it was closed at another period of time. I have indicated to members of the Chamber of Commerce and the restaurant division and their bartender group that they have now assembled that if they would like to see that category open, I would like to see a reciprocal training program put in place for Bermudians. And so if there is a constant stream of funds going to train and development Bermudians in this particular area, and there is still a shortfall as it pertains to staffing levels, I'll be open to having a conversation surrounding that. The other category that was asked to open up is the category of room attendants with hotels. Room attendants now have been historically a closed job category. And so most of this takes place in a unionized setting. The unions were fundamentally opposed to it when we first breached this particular topic. I asked the unions to assist me with providing a solution. The unions, the Hotel Association, were both requested to join me in a meeting so that we can discuss a way forward as it pertains to room attendants. And I think that is the process that should be used. If industry has a challenge as it pertains to securing labor in a certain job category, this government certainly just don't want to restrict the business operations from being effective. But what we want to do is have a reasonable conversation on the best way forward. We may come to an agreement that a closed category should be opened. And that's what I'm willing to facilitate. And so where industry has reached out, I've made agreements with industry as it pertains to other category, which would have been actuaries. I would have met with international business. They would have said they had trouble securing actuaries. And then I would agree to expedite actuarial work permits so that they can secure the labor that they need. So I have been very flexible as it pertains to working with industry, but my primary aim is to protect Bermudian employment, and where reasonable, I will amend the closed and restricted job category list.
Supplementary. Given the minister's answer that the opposition has created an idea of an impact study, does the honorable minister consider that there could be an impact study?
Minister.
The ministry remains open to receiving feedback from industry. And so I'll put a broad appeal out there. If industry believes that a closed or restricted job category should be open, then the ministry is open to having that dialogue with industry. I've made that abundantly clear to the Bermuda Hotel Association. I've made that abundantly clear to Chamber of Commerce. And any other industry groups that may be impacted by closed and restricted job categories. But for the ministry to insert resources to do a broad-based study that will only take into consideration a period of time, because Bermuda's employment landscape shifts and changes, I don't think would be the best use of resources. But I would ask the question again: what would the opposition like for the government to do different in regards to this? I've laid out an extremely structured way forward as it pertains to what I believe is reasonable in terms of operating. I haven't heard any solutions coming from the government, nor have the government offered any solutions. That's fine.
Let the minister finish.
He can get caught up with words, but this is a very serious matter, because it seems as though we want to play politics with things and processes are in place that can easily be worked through. You don't see industry in the newspaper speaking up about these things and listing any specific job.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
You can.
This is question period. We asked questions.
He was responding.
Is that okay?
Okay.
This is okay. Does he have a question? When will we answer his questions?
If the member was responding, he could, if he had got up and gave a yes or no, I think people would be upset that he gave a yes or no. He was trying to give a thorough response. Yes, we don't expect him to go on long, but he was responding in response to part of the interpretation that came across after the question. But Minister, you can finish your question, your response.
Yes, so I've outlined a structured project. I meet with industry on a regular basis, and the industry knows that there are forums available to connect with the Minister of Economy and Labor to discuss specific occupational categories. But I would ask the opposition today, what job categories would they like to see open, or what process do they believe that should be in place?
Second sub.
No, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Thanks to the minister for his answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister and members, for your participation in those questions. The next written question is to the series of written questions are to the Minister of Transport from MP Jackson. MP Jackson.
Thank you and good morning, Mr. Speaker. My question, will the Honorable Minister of Transport please provide this Honorable House with a list of all Public Service Vehicle Licensing Board members by year and professional title from 2017 to 2022?
Minister.
Morning, Mr. Speaker. That information that the honorable member has asked is in the public domain.
The minister has responded that it's in public domain, and as you know, with the question period questions, if the information is in public domain, the minister isn't obligated to provide the answer. He can just indicate it's in public domain, and that public domain can be from statements that are made here prior, or it can be from stuff that's published in the public space, in the newspaper, online, etc.
Mr. Speaker, I have done intensive research. Public domain or not, I'm going to accept that. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask a supplementary question. All of the government board lists are the names of people that sit on the government board. So I'd like to ask the minister if he would just list the professional titles of the Public Service Licensing Board members between 2017 and 2022.
Just for my clarity, you're saying that you were able to find the names, you found the names in the public space?
No, I have not, and I've done extensive research.
Well,
but
well, let me follow your line of question. As far as the titles are concerned, I'm not sure people are placed on any boards because of their title. So I'm trying to walk my way through that piece. But I would venture to say the history under whichever government has been in place is that boards are publicized annually for every year. All government boards, they're required to be publicized every year. So if it is a government board, it would have been published in whatever time period it was supposed to be. And I don't want to give a time a month, I'm just not sure. But whatever time period it should have been when all government boards were published, I would assume that that board would have been included in the government boards that were published. And that's why the minister is referring to public knowledge. Minister, just for clarification for me, that board would have been publicized, as all government boards are.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. That's all.
At least you can start with 2022.
That's fine. So so I'm lost for words as to how to help you if the boards are publicized, because they are by requirement of law that they should be publicized every year.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I would just beg to ask the question why there is so much defensiveness around listing the government board members for the public service licensing.
I'm trying to help you, really, Mom. I'm really trying to help you. So let me. I don't want to go back and forth between the minister and the member, but I'm trying to help you in that the public boards are all public boards are publicized, and the listing for this board is included in this year's listing with all the names, etc. on it.
That's this year, but 2017 to 2022 have no longer been on any site that I have access to or the public has access to. Then I would ask that the minister then maybe provide the HTTP email, internet address for the public to be able to access the names.
Okay, but we're not. Wait. We're not got to a supplementary question right now. I'm just trying to help you in the process. Meaning, every year they are publicized. That's a given. Everybody accepts that. We all accept that they're given. Even under an OBA administration, they were publicized every year. Under the PLP, they've been publicized every year. So they're in the public domain in some space. I don't know historically how far back that goes to be able to find it, but it's like anything else, I would assume, that's in the newspaper. If the right research is done, you can find historical archive articles and stuff that's been in the paper. I haven't done the research. I know it's currently there, but I would assume that, like all other historical articles in the paper, there's a research that can be done and produce it. So what I'm clearly trying to establish here is that they are publicized. It's in the public domain. We accept that. We are accepting that. It's in the public domain.
Mr. Speaker, I'm accepting the fact that you accept that fact. And again, just the idea that no one would want to share that information answers my question. So thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll move on.
I'm not saying that they don't want to share it. I'm trying to follow the guidelines of the standing orders, which say that if it's in public domain, the minister is not required to answer it. That's standing order requirement. If it's in public domain, there's no requirement for the minister to respond other than to direct the question to the fact that it is in the public domain.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
You're trying to point the order on that one for me?
On the honorable members here, on the honorable member here, not yours, but
I'm trying to help everybody on this. I'm trying not to go. I'm
just
trying to
move
get
on.
us to where we can get
Second
past
question.
this.
Second-
Yes, can we go past to the next question there?
Second question.
Second
Thank
question.
you. Yes. Will the honorable minister please provide this honorable house a list of all the companies considered in the bus digital fare RFP, which is request for proposal process?
Minister?
yes, I'll provide that list. Okay, I'll have no problem giving it if you want me to give the names. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member, I mentioned last week there were about 13 companies. First one, Fort Knox. Second one, AACP / PTIX. Third one, Flowbird. Number 4, Paragon ID. 5, Kuba, Kuba, Cuba, or Cuba. Number 6, TransUp. Number 7, Wireless Ventures. Number 8, BPS. BPC. Number 9, Gateway Systems. Number 10, Gnusis, GNOSIS, Gnusis. Number 11, Int USA. Number 12, BirdTrack. Number 13, J Daniels. And number 4 was the winner, Paragon ID.
Thank you. Supplementary?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Will the minister please give us an indication of why Paragon was chosen over the other 12?
Mr. Speaker, that was my statement also last week.
The minister is indicating that in the statement last week when he gave, indicated why they chose, was it why Paragon was chosen as the provider. It was in the statement last week. Second sub? Okay. All right. Thank you, members, for that. There's still another written question for us this morning. That question is in the name, is for the minister, for the junior minister of sport, who isn't here today, but the minister of education will respond on his behalf. And the questions are from MP Kennener. MP Kennener?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know that the answers to the list may be long, so do you want to proceed with due to the time or?
What's your question? The clock's still running.
Okay, good. Will the honorable, don't say that.
Clock's
Will
still
the
running.
honorable
Good.
minister please provide this honorable house with a list of the public, I'm sorry, I'm going to hers. Will the honorable minister inform this honorable house as to the Balco charges for the National Sports Center for each month from January 2018 to date?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker,
You haven't
in
given me your written
2018, in January, charges were $52,464. In February 2018, $53,805. In March 2018, $54,162. In April of 2018, $46,011. May 2018, $47,729. June 2018, $48,506. July 2018, $50,099. August 2018, $52,840. In September 2018, $50,855. In October 2018, $60,525. November 2018, $49,625. December 2018, $58,990.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order?
Yes, I'll humbly ask you to review the standing orders and rule that question out of order. The standing order says that short answers will be given. It's impossible for the minister to provide a short answer on this particular matter. It's kind of like a vexatious question that the opposition is particularly answer, and members of the public has to sit through
Point of
a
order,
member
Mr.
of
Speaker. That
parliament
is not the
listening
case
to
at all,
this.
vexatious.
The question, as we're sitting here listening to it, does sound like it's going to be a lengthy response. I'm trying to gauge how the supplementals, if supplementals are to come, or if it's just information that was sought, because it could have been a written response that would have provided everything right in front for the member to have and make any supplementaries from.
Mr. Speaker, I'd be willing to take it in writing. The challenge is that we're still got questions that haven't been answered, and we've asked for them in writing, and we're still waiting. Like for the premier and the questions I asked last week, we still haven't received them. So if we can get it in a timely basis within the next couple of days, next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, then I'd oblige.
Well, I'm gonna try and indulge everybody on this one here. If you have your seat, Minister, I'm assuming that you're reading from a list in front of you. I'm reading from a digital list in front of you, but it's printed somewhere, or can be printed somewhere. I would want to ask if you can provide that printed list to the member, so that we don't have to sit here and listen to the whole month by month from 2018 till now. I know you just asked your question. I know you. I'm being cognizant of your colleague who raised the issue of us not having to sit here that long and listen to it. And I'm asking, would you be willing to provide a written list if the member is prepared to accept a written list?
Mr. Speaker, as I am holding this, I will forward that to the permanent secretary of the relevant ministry and see if that can be arranged.
Well, I was trying to get you to make a call on your feet. If not, we're going to sit there and listen to this. That's right. Well, we'll sit there and listen to it. Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, 2019, January, $47,433. February 2019, $53,899. March 2019,
Members, I only
$53,651.
want to hear one voice, and that's the voice of the minister.
April 2019, $51,372. May 2019, $45,458. June 2019, $44,646. July 2019, $43,470. April 2019, $46,160. September 2019, $43,873. October 2019, $37,674. November 2019, $44,446. December 2019, $44,900. In 2020, January, $48,552. February 2020, $51,398. March 2020, $48,726. April 2020, $8,222. It must have been a good month. May 2020, $58,000. What? Yes, what? $107. June 2020, $39,519.
I didn't realize in all that going back and forth for what the actual time was.
That's what I said in the beginning.
I actually missed that. It's now 12:35. I'm going to ask that we take the lunch break at this moment, and you'll have to come back and continue. Or maybe during the lunch break, you might be able to get clarification from the PS to provide the list, and then we won't have to continue listening to it. Okay, but Premier, would you like to move us to lunch at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the Honorable House to now adjourn for lunch to return at 2 p.m.
Thank you. Members, the House now stands adjourned until 2 p.m.